Hey y'all. So the church say that the law is done away with. We're not under the law, we're under grace. And how in the world can we keep 613 laws? That tells me right there, they don't have an understanding, a complete understanding, because we were never meant to keep 613 laws. One person was not required to keep all 613 laws. We have laws for women, we have laws for men, we have laws for the priests only, we have laws while we have a temple. So there are different laws for different reasons. You're not required to keep all 613 laws. The laws that all Israel have to keep, they're very simple. They're not hard, they're not a burden, and they can be walked out every day. It's a choice. That's why I say choose life and death, blessings and curses. So if Yahweh would not have given us this things that we could not do, that was impossible to do, and then say you're going to be cursed if you don't do them, and then since they're impossible to do, then we're all cursed. No, they were possible to do. Our ancestors, they did not do them, and that's why we are experiencing the curses. So we have been experiencing the curses of breaking the covenant and doing our own things, going after idols and the other gods of the other nations. So we were cursed, but they are very possible to do. Like I said, we do not have to keep 613 laws. And I wrote a guide called Hear, O Israel, a guide to live in Hebrew. And in the back of that guide, it have a declaration for Israel, all the things that we can be walking out today and that we should be walking out. They're very simple. Keeping the Sabbath is not impossible. Honoring the feast days is not impossible. Treating your neighbors right, caring for the orphans and widows, that's not impossible to do. What is actually, tell me, Christians, tell me what is actually impossible that you cannot do, that he's asking you to do, that we should still be doing to this day. We know the sacrifices are done away with. There's no temple. We're not doing the sacrifices. Yahshua died, he was that sacrifice. So certain things, if you don't understand, just be like, I don't understand. Can you help me get an understanding? Let's have Bible study together. Let's get an understanding. But don't just blow it off and be like, oh, we don't have to do that anymore. It's not true. We have to get back to the truth and what the Bible actually says we should be doing. The covenant he gave us at Mount Sinai, it's still in effect. It's just renewed in Yahshua. It's renewed in Yahshua. But the things that he asked us to do, he still is asking us to do it. He's still expecting us to do it. And then that was past. This is present. But even in the future, even how we're going to be judged, it say those who are guarding his commands. So if they're done away with, why is he bringing them back up in the end times, in the book of Revelations? So, why is he bringing that up if they're done away with in the beginning, since they're no longer relevant? So they are relevant. The commandments are relevant. The laws are relevant. We obey the laws of the land, whatever country you live in. If you don't follow them laws, you're going to be punished. There's consequences for not following the laws. It's the same thing with the laws of the Most High. There are consequences when we do not follow his commandments, his laws. So we have to get back to it. Stop going by traditions and being what we were taught for over centuries and centuries and years. I'm 44 years old, and I was, since I was a child, I was born into Christianity. So of course, it was embedded in me, certain things, the Christianity, what they believe, and what they believe is we're saved by grace. I also believe, Hebrews believe and understand that yes, we are saved by grace. Works we understand that keeping the law, honoring the law, honoring the law and doing what the Father wants you to do, we're not saved by that. We understand that we did keep all the commandments, but we're not in Yahshua, then there's no salvation. We understand that. So we're not saying that we're saved by what we're doing, but because we are in Yahshua, we're going to obey and do what he asks us to do. Like I said, I wrote a guide called Hear, O Israel, a guide to live in Hebrew. You can look in the description or the comments wherever I posted and get that guide, and you will see how to walk out the Hebrew lifestyle. Certain things, how to keep the Sabbath, how to keep the feast days. What are the feast days? Even when I was in the church, I didn't know what the feast days were. I probably read over it before and everything, but it's not taught. And definitely we're not honoring the feast days. We do the Christmas, we do the Easter, but the feast days we do not do. And the feast days are so wonderful if you learn about them. Especially Christians, Christians say Jesus is the foundation and everything, but the feast days point to him. The spring feast, which have already taken place, been fulfilled, and then we have the fall feast, and they all is centered around Yahshua. So, if we study and just get an understanding and just lay away pride and say, you know what, I really want to know the truth. I really want to get this thing right because I love God that much that I want to obey him and honor him and do everything that he asked me to do. Some things, it's not about the salvation part. It's not about the salvation part. It's about just loving your God. If you love your God, why aren't we doing what he asked us to do? If he asked us to keep the Sabbath, why don't we do it? Even though not keeping it, you might not lose your salvation, but why aren't we doing what our God asked us to do? If he asked us to keep the feast days, why don't we keep the feast days? Why we rather do man-made holidays? That's my question. Why don't we do the things that our Father's asking us to do? That's the question for many of you all. Why? I love him so much. Certain things that I don't do anymore, certain things I don't eat anymore, it's not because I'm not eating them because I want to earn salvation. It's because he asked me not to do it. Plain and simple. I'm just honoring the request that my Father has requested of me. Don't do it. Okay, you don't want me to eat bacon? Okay, I'm not going to eat bacon. You want me to keep the Sabbath? Okay, I'm going to keep the Sabbath. And it's work. It's not like, I just stopped doing certain things. It's just not like, we're supposed to keep the Sabbath. I didn't even know how to keep the Sabbath. I'm like, how do you keep the Sabbath? Like, we're not taught that. Even though we said our Sabbath was on Sunday in the Christian church, they still was not keeping the Sabbath because we still was doing a whole bunch of other stuff besides going to fellowship, going to a service, and worshiping. So it's certain things that we're supposed to do or not do to keep the Sabbath correctly. And it is important because, some people say it don't matter. But why don't it matter? If your Father, somebody you say you love, asks you to do it, why you can't do it? Why you just be like, I love you, God, but I ain't about to do nothing you say do? That don't make sense. Make it make sense. Anyway, Hear, O Israel, a guide to live in Hebrew. It's a little PDF file I created just for me because I love my brothers and sisters. I love my brothers and sisters in Christ, and I want us all to get this understanding and all to walk in the ways of Yah together. Israelites, Hebrews, whatever you call yourself, the church, we supposed to be in this together. We supposed to walk this out together. We supposed to be one family with one shepherd, which is Yahshua, aka the world known as Jesus. So we have to come. We're preparing. This is preparation. We're preparing for the millennium kingdom. So, these are the things that we're going to be doing when we're in the kingdom. We're going to be keeping the feast days. We're going to be honoring the Sabbath. So we need to start doing it now. I'm simply Latoria. See you next time.